Hey, folks, and welcome back to Women of Water Get Real Virtual Summit. We're talking about the leaks, where women are leaking from the water career pipeline, how we can stop those leaks, and actually even bring women back when they step out of the water workforce. And we have here today, really excited about our next guest, is someone that I met through an event that we've talked about this before, empowering women in industry, started the day after the largest water conference, big expo, Water Environment Federation's WEFTEC. And there are a lot of companies that, women were coming up with the same issues. And so Charlie started doing this empowering water and industry event, lots and lots of pink. And Nicole was the MC at that event, and as a coach in her own right, has a thriving business as a coach. And when we started talking about some of her experiences as an engineer and what motivated to get into coaching and the work on herself and with the women that she works with. So Nicole Calhoun, really excited to have you here. Welcome to the summit.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited as well. I absolutely love empowering women. I love Charlie and her organization, but just my passion is to see women advance in their career. And as you know, my background is not in water or probably the area that your background is, or a lot of your listeners. But mine is in technology, which is a part of that whole STEM background where women are underrepresented in those fields. And so I know very well, like you know, that there's challenges. And so I have this deep passion to help women.
By the way, water, we talk about water in the broadest sense. So it's water related organizations and water related professions. And whether you're talking about water and wastewater utilities or river basin management, fisheries, whatever, everything is becoming more technological. Everything is becoming more advanced, more computers, more smart water this and intelligent water that, right? So technology is really a part of all of that, and that includes women who code, women who develop the models. My PhD was doing knowledge-based decision support systems. I did a lot of coding. I did a lot of setting up the models and figuring out how to integrate local knowledge and incorporate it with more mathematical models and with GIS and everything. So I think a lot of the women are going to really be able to relate to your background.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely.
Well, so you shared a story with us in a little interview that we did. What was your experience especially as a woman, as a coder, and very often only woman in the room, only Black woman in the room, only Black in the room, only. Right?
The double only, right? One of my previous colleagues actually said, Nicole, you're a double only, and I never thought about that. Like you said, the only African American woman and only woman, right? And so, what my experience was that early on in my career, I realized I realized again that I was the only very early in my career, and that becomes kind of intimidating because you don't see people that look like you. And as I began to progress through my career, while I had some really good colleagues and managers, I did realize that whole what we call imposter syndrome that set in. I realized that there was some areas where I felt like I struggled to really advance. Part of that I feel, and we kind of talked about that too, Kat, that I feel part of it was me because I held back on who I was because I felt like I had to look like this cookie cutter, like everyone else, right, around me. And so by holding back, I was not able to fully show the people or demonstrate what I was capable of. But not only that, there was some struggles in trying to move forward, and the opportunities that sometimes we don't necessarily get as women in some of these fields where we are underrepresented. So it was just like a combination of different things where I saw my career was not advancing the way that I wanted to. And it actually developed into a passion for me to begin to help other women to advance in their career.
You know, it's funny. I think what I'm starting to realize is that even for women who do start out very confident, and I mean, my mother was first woman doctor this and first woman president of medical association that, and like basically told me and my sister that if you want to be equal to men, you have to either get an MD or a PhD. So my sister got an MD and I got a PhD. And really believed that I could do whatever I needed to do. I wasn't into all that feminist stuff. I was going to be able to do it because I had the degrees, I had the credentials, I had, whatever, what do I need to do this? Okay, I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And we do kind of get to that point where, especially as we move into leadership, that our mentors may, mostly male mentors, may be mentoring us a little differently. And maybe, you need to, not interrupt or not show anxiety or not, be calm or whatever. I don't, whatever. It was like things that guys could do, we couldn't do. Mm-hmm. And being kind of move towards, oh, well, you're good with communications. Why don't you write the proposals? Why don't you write the reports? Oh, you're good with people. Why don't you manage the team? Leave all the technical stuff to us. And so before long, our technical skills start falling behind, A. And B, it's almost a conditioning that, that we're only accepted if we're in that more supporting role rather than being the engineers that we are. Or scientists or policy analysts or whatever it is that our technical skill set is, that our value, our reward comes when we do the supporting role things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, as a software engineer, I did not have that problem. I didn't have the problem of not being able to use my technical skills or my technical knowledge. The problem that I did have was, like you said, kind of holding back, in where we started off confident. We started off very bold and just knowing that we could get the job done. But, you start seeing a pattern of where if you got as passionate as, maybe your male counterpart did about something, it was looked at a little differently. And so you kind of conform, right? And you hold back so that you don't offend anyone. And so that part, I totally, I know exactly what you mean. It's just, you want to be, everybody wants to be likable, right? It makes the team work better together. But there is a limit to that whole likability, to where it's impacting you. It's impacting the way you're doing your job. And it's impacting how you're showing up and ultimately your career progression. Right. So one of the things that I hear a lot, a repeated thing from the women that I've coached, the women that I've trained, is that they feel like there's a double standard. Anytime they're expressing their ideas or their disagreement, or that they're looked at differently, and that is unfortunate, because there is a double standard. And how do you change that, right? And you change that with making it known, pointing it out. But you didn't ask me that, so I'll just.
No. And that's, you know, that was on our list of, you know, one of the things we were going to talk about is that, you know, and there is that double, and there's a double standard both with the men we're working, you know, men and women that we're working for, that we're working with, and that we're supervising. And often, you know, even now with, you know, putting together the summit, you know, I'll kind of second guess my, you know, if I say, look, we have a deadline, you know, that you know, there's that history, you know, the was it my big fat Greek wedding, when she says, yeah, the man is the head, but the woman is the neck, and turns of any way.
Yeah.
But there is that kind of that behind the scenes, I'm just gonna make the guy think it was his idea kind of thing. And it's almost expected that we're not gonna give a direct order. That whether it's men or women, they don't take it as well when we, you know, that it's almost like we have to couch it in a, oh, hi, how are you doing, Nicole? Did you have a good week? Hey, you know, be really great if you did this project for me. And, you know, today is the last day we have to do it. And we really can't push this summit interview any further. And, you know, it's like,
Yeah,
you know, sometimes you just have to say, deadline is a deadline. We got to get it done. Right.
yeah, and I think you know, just kind of going back to, because how do you get around that? And how do you get around, first of all, like you said, hesitating, because you're so accustomed to hesitating. You're so accustomed to second guessing yourself, right?
Right.
And
You've been
just
told to second guess yourself. Yeah.
yeah, and so you have to be really conscious about it first. And when we're talking personal, right? How do you personally get around that? Well, you have to first of all be conscious of when it happens, and then you have to be able to know, okay, what am I going to do when I know this is going to happen again? Because it's going to happen again until I have exercised that muscle for it not to happen again.
Right.
But on the other side of that, what do you do for the people that expect you to kind of tone things down? And when I say tone things down, because I truly believe that all of our interaction in the workplace um, should be respectable, right? But when you're asked to maybe change the way you say things because it's seen as aggressive, even though you didn't mean it to be aggressive, what do? Well, you bring awareness to it. You know, one of the things that, you know, I've heard a few people say that they got feedback that they were a little bit aggressive in their tone and people were intimidated by them. And they asked for, well, give me an example, right? Give me an example of that's bringing attention to it. Because if you can't give a viable example, then it's just an opinion. So as you're bringing attention to things like that, then and you're bringing attention, and then you make corrective action, right? You have a discussion about it. That's the only way to be able to change it, because it's been like that for forever, forever. But you know, I think the work that what you're doing, and like you said, what Charlie's doing, it's bringing things to the forefront for women, and really showing women how do we, you know, begin to kind of move the needle on the change in our experiences in the workforce, especially within our male dominated fields. Now it's slow change, but it's still change. And we're no longer like powerless. I think that's what I like about what's been going on in the past, you know, 4 or 5 years, is that we don't feel powerless anymore. We feel more empowered to be able to bring things to the forefront so that they are changed.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that's really valuable of working with coaches, and I work with coaches. Coaching is not a regulated industry. There are people who just hang their shingle and say, oh, look, I'm a coach. But then there are those who really know what they're doing, who get the training, who get, you know, develop the experience, who develop the skill set, who you'll learn about things like psychology and how to create a space to work through what's going on, what's holding you back, to talk, you ask the right questions, to listen and reflect back what you're saying, to support you in developing a game plan, and then holding, having, an accountability check to make sure that you're following through on things. I mean, coaching can be really a wonderful thing, when it's not just a cookie cutter, here's the one solution for every woman in every situation, that is, or you just got to stay positive and visualize happy, 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 that's not always so helpful, especially in the engineering space. We can't just visualize, having a team work together. It's good to kind of think about good things and not just get stuck in the bad stuff. But you also have to take action.
Yeah. Yeah. And and all those things are good. Like you said, visualizing the vision boards and things like that. In training, right? Training all those things have its place. Coaching is different because it deals with the individual and it deals with their whole life, right? So I tell people that, when you go to work, you don't leave your home life behind, right? I give the example of my mom has had heart surgery 3 times. And when it was the 3rd time to have surgery, and she said, I'm not doing this anymore. And while I understood why she didn't want to do it, I mean, it's traumatic, right? I went to work that next day, and the first the first couple emails that I got that I just felt was unnecessary. I just, everything just and that's because you don't leave your home life at home. You're still thinking about these things. And so coaching it is the whole person. It addresses, okay, on the job, this is what you're trying to accomplish, but what is the mindset that's stopping you? And sometimes the mindset is something that came from when you were growing up. Yeah. So that's why it has to be individualized. And it also allows the person to, like you said, you're asking them the right questions and they're coming up with their solutions, because really coaching is about pulling out the solution inside of that person. So It's not me telling you, well, you need to do A, B, C, and D. It's really, well, tell me more about that. How did you develop that belief system? Right. And so you really get to digging. And I think that's why it's so effective, because you're getting to the root of what is holding a person back. Going back to imposter syndrome. If somebody were to ask me, well, why did you feel like an imposter? Now, initially, I probably could not have answered that. But when I thought about it, well, where I grew up, our school system, I did not feel like our school system prepared us the way the students that I went to college were prepared. So that went way back, but it still impacted me in my career, right? And so you have to be able to address those things and understand where they're coming from. Otherwise, you're going to keep going back to, well, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not doing what this person is doing. Well, you may not be doing what they're doing, but you bring something to the table. There's a reason why you're there, and there's a reason why they hired you, right? So, yeah, you're right. Coaching is, I encourage it as much as possible, especially when there are people that are just stuck and they can't get beyond where they are. I do feel like coaching is it's highly beneficial, especially career coaching.
And to be able to couple your professional development with your personal development. And my coach, personal transformation coach, and where I did all my training, as he was shifting his business model and encouraged me to go into entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is the biggest personal development journey you're on, because all of your crap comes with you, and whatever you believe shows up in your business. But it's also true in the workplace, and especially as we move up and to we spent a lot of time talking about things like, some of the institutional stuff that goes on and systemic stuff and yada, yada, yada. But also, how it's not that you can't control your workspace, you can influence it. You can be aware of what's going on and influence and try to make things better. But there's also that other piece of how are we reacting? How are we reacting in a way that's going to help make things better? Are we reacting in a way that's going to make things worse or make it seem like we're the one who's out of whack? If we're reacting to something that might be inappropriate in the workplace. And just and knowing when it's something that you're handling different, like with your emails, because of something that happened at home.
Right.
How do you communicate that without, I mean, I had someone actually back out on on an interview, and didn't tell me why. She just said, oh, something personal came up. Sorry. And it was like, and I actually lost my temper, and I tried not to do that, but I did. And felt horrible about it because apparently her father had like broken his hip, but she didn't say I had a family emergency. It's just, oh yeah, something came up. And it's like, it just, how do you recognize, how do we give ourselves grace? How do we recognize when some of our behavior is associated with, the stresses at home? How do we find the support systems to make sure? Because I think a lot of guys don't have to deal with that stuff as much.
Oh,
They can just focus on the work stuff and, oh, kid's got a problem. Oh, my wife will deal with that. Oh, my mother's got to go into home. Oh, my wife will deal with that. My sister will deal with that.
Yeah, we definitely juggle a lot, don't we? Especially during the pandemic, I heard from so many women that, oh, I'm having to work longer hours. I'm still having to cook. I'm having to clean. I'm having, just
And the
so
kids
many.
are stressed because they're not going to school, and the
Yeah.
husband's stressed because he lost his job. Yeah. And
Yeah,
work
and you're trying to help
everywhere.
your kids, right, online with their schoolwork, and yeah, and so you're right. We definitely juggle a lot of hats, and what I found is that identifying your triggers is probably the most beneficial things that you can do, right? And that goes back to like emotional intelligence, right? Understanding yourself, understanding when you're going from one level to the next and why. What is when you respond this way, you don't always respond this way. So what is it that's causing you to respond this way? And being able to say, well, I know when this happens that I'm likely to respond the same way. So when you're identifying those triggers, then you identify, when I see this beginning to happen, how do I not respond the way that I have traditionally? And so it goes to training your brain to, I tell people, if this happens or when this happens, I'll do this. It's not something that you do in the moment. It's something that you have to prepare ahead of time to say, well, this is the way I've responded before, but I don't want that response again because maybe I don't want the outcome from the response. So what am I going to do when I see it starting to happen again? And for each person, that's going to be different. Is the situation, the answer for the situation is going to be different, but really getting ahead of it to say when it happens again, because it's happened before. I know it's going to happen.
Right.
What am I going to do next time? Right. Because a lot of times it's a knee-jerk reaction, right?
Yeah. One of the things we used to do at Personal Best at the end of each year, we'd have this annual review of like looking back at all the great things, and gratitudes are great, love gratitudes, but all the things we want to celebrate and pat ourselves in the back. And also look at all the things that didn't go so well. And what were the choices I made where things went well? What were the choices I made where things didn't go well? And what would I do differently going forward? And to make those conscious choices And what supports do I need to put in place? Who do I want to spend my time around? Am I around people who are toxic? Am I around people who inspire me and who I want to model my behavior after?
Right, right.
Right.
And that's that reflection, right? It's really reflecting on, like you said, well, what did I do well? What didn't go so well? One of the coaches that in my training, he talked about how at the end of the year, and some people do this on a monthly basis, but he would mark something, whether it was an event, a meeting, he would mark it red, yellow, and green. And green was, I definitely want to keep this in my life for the next year. Red was, this did not go well at all, and I need to stay away from things like this. And then yellow is, you know, time permitting, maybe I can revisit this again. It just kind of depends. But you have to take that time to reflect. And I think we're always going, going, going. And part of that is because we're wearing so many hats, right? I have teenagers. Well, I have a teen and a preteen. And if they lose something, who are they coming to? Mommy, can you find this? You're always so great at finding things, right? And so because we're going, 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 we don't always take that time to be able to reflect back. But it's a really great exercise that will save us time because we're eliminating things that's not beneficial if we do the exercise, right?
Well, and that's the whole point, is that if you don't do that, you don't celebrate a new year. You're living the same damn year over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only way really to grow as people, including to grow as leaders in whatever water profession, water organization, contribution to society, contribution to community, to our family, to whatever, is coming from taking that time to step back and reflect, and and having the the support of someone who can reflect back to us is so valuable. I know there were some things, I know we're running out of time, there were some things you wanted to touch on as far as women in STEM are more successful, or attributes of what makes success. What else would you like to share before we wrap?
One of my biggest thing, I think, is, and one of my really my signature talk is on being who you are. I truly feel like every person has gifts and talents, but the only way that you can bring that to the table is if you're true to yourself. And so I know that's not always easy, but it's so freeing, right? And it allows you to show the world around you what you can offer them. I say that when we don't let our light shine, then the people around us can't see. There's things that they're not going to be able to experience and see because we are not letting that light shine, right? And so if you don't hear anything else that I'm saying today, is that it is important to show up as you are. And Kat, I don't know if you remember the story I told about, how I had this mom that was just, we're doing this. I don't care that we're women. I grew up in a single person household. And so there was a lot of stuff that we did that women didn't traditionally do, and I talked about how we moved the couch up the stairs. What I didn't talk about was we pushing cars, if her car stalled, we would push it out the way, or, just different things like that. And because of that, I developed this go-getter, this tenacious attitude, but I found myself in situations where, well, some people don't necessarily like that. Right. And regardless of whether they like it or not, and you still have to be you. Now, I am not saying be abrasive, but if you're strong, if you're determined, don't let that fizzle, because that is going to be important to your career. It's going to be important to the people that you work with. because that is the talent, the skills, and the ability that you bring to the table. But back to what you said about the people that I see that's really successful. You know, there's some women that do really well in the STEM fields. And I feel like, one, it's people that know their value. So that goes back to reflecting what you talked about. Well, what went right? Because what was successful for me this year? What did I do that I saw a repeated thing of being successful? And then how do I extract out of that the things that I should continue to do and the things that I should not continue to do? And skill wise too, right? Because sometimes we do other things that we think we're supposed to do because other people are doing it. But that may not be your strength. That may not be your gift, right? Your talent. So understanding where your skills are is going to help you to understand your value. So understanding your value is going to help you to be successful. The other part of that is your confidence. Well, your confidence comes along when you understand your values. So it's like it's building on top of each other, right? And understanding your values and understanding your strength comes from you being exactly who you're supposed to be, right? And so again, I go back to one of the things I say is that we're not supposed to be one of the guys, even though we work in these male-dominated industries. We're not supposed to be one of the guys. We're supposed to be just who we are. You just want to be courageous enough to be uniquely who you are.
Yeah. And I think especially for those of us in, these really mission driven, we're going to save the world. We're going to save the climate. We're going to save the environment, the fish, the frogs, the lead pipe removal, whatever, very mission driven stuff. These are not mousy women. These are usually not women don't have their confidence. We're not seeing that in these fields. I think they start out, like you said, very confident. And there are these little things that, if we're not able to keep working on our skills, if we're not being recognized for our value, if we're not, if our confidence is starting to erode, it adds up over time. It's often not, overt kind of stuff.
Right.
These very professional environments. And it takes some awareness to know when I'm really bad at quitting. I'm not a good quitter. I think there's times I probably could have walked away from that firm a lot earlier and gotten myself into a better situation. But there was that having to prove that I could tough it out. How much can you take? And there's so much need right now. If you're not valued and appreciated where you are, somebody else will value and appreciate you. I'm not telling you to go in tomorrow to your office and say, "Yeah, screw you." But start thinking about either what are the things that you can do to ensure people do value and appreciate you, and that you have your skill sets, maybe a move within your company or a change in your responsibilities, or see what else is out there. But and in those cases, that's a time, if you're faced with an external change, family crisis, mother gets sick, whatever, and something new happens, or if you want to create a change, are often the best times to bring in a coach. And Nicole, I know that you are an amazing coach, and we're going to include around this video, you'll see how to get in touch with Nicole, how to find out more. I don't know if you have your signature talk posted. We can make that available so that people can, see a little bit about who you are, and then, if they're interested, reach out to you for more information. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you for having me.
And thank you everyone for joining us. keep coming back. We've got some amazing coaches, Coach Nicole, Coach Portia, Coach Stephanie Slocum from Engineers Rising. You know, the women that we have who are coaches, I want to point out, all of them really know the kinds of women that are in this industry. You know, and I think there's a lot of leadership coaches for women who kind of for, you know, I don't know, other areas. That's almost like a sorority in some of those cases, like doesn't work with this industry. But we have women who actually backgrounds in engineering or working with engineers or working with very technical people, or you know, obviously we're not all engineers, but just understanding the kind of environment that we're in. And Nicole is a great example of that. That we work in the water space. So thanks again, everybody. Keep coming back, and we'll see you more for the rest of the summit. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for joining us for this extraordinary conversation, one of 45 extraordinary conversations we had as part of the Women of Water Get Real virtual summit, where we explored where and why women are leaking from the water career pipeline, how we can stop those leaks, and even bring women back to water. I hope that you will enjoy all of these amazing interviews. If you don't have a chance to watch all of them during the summit, you have the opportunity to join us with a power pack and get lifetime access to all the videos, as well as an opportunity to join us for 30 days in a brand new community where we will dig even deeper in live facilitated conversations about some of the issues that are facing women in water. Look forward to seeing you there. Please join us at watercitizen.org/women, watercitizen.org/women for more information. See you again soon.